On Monday morning, 13 climate activists were released from jail after being remanded on Friday by a judge over a climate action that took place on Independence Day in Maryland. The group halted traffic for hours, blocking thousands of vehicles while demanding that President Biden declare climate change an emergency. The incident was filmed by News to Share contributor TJ Jones. They ultimately were sent directly to jail at sentencing this past Friday and released Monday.
We did what we had to do, and I have no regrets.
It's okay, though. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm sorry we didn't see that coming.
No, it's all right, man. You know, there's consequences for breaking the law. You know, there's consequences for breaking the laws defined by man. But the consequences when you break the laws defined by God are much more severe, and that's where humanity's heading right now. It's my hope that, you know, we're able to get humanity to stop breaking those laws. Because I'll gladly suffer the penalties of men as opposed to the penalties of the Creator personally. I think everybody else would agree with that as well.
What do you hope will change as a result of this about human behavior?
You know, it's an ongoing process, you know. I think this was a hallmark moment on Friday when the judge came down with that sentence. I don't think in the short term, I don't think it's going to change much. But I believe in the long term, this is one of those turning points.
Do you see it as a success, the action and the outcome?
I do. We inconvenienced a lot of people. We made a lot of people mad. That's understandable. But we also want people to connect the dots between inconvenience and what's happening. We are in a state of emergency and catastrophe. And so we have to make that point quickly and emphatically. And there is no better time and place than wherever we are.
I'm so happy to be added up this. I'll tell you.
Thank you so much.
It depends on for me, on how we capitalize on this action. Whether, you know, first of all, whether new people come to these types of things. Secondly, whether, you know, how it's promoted in the public media. So for me, there's still some open questions as to whether it was worth it or not. I'd like to say that yes, it was worth it. This was an experience that I wanted to have personally for myself as a climate activist, so I can check that off my list now. So that was a success. Thank you for asking.
On the 4th of July, we sat and blocked the inner loop of the Beltway in Washington to try to call attention to the climate crisis and to get President Biden to declare a climate emergency, which is long overdue and needs to happen for us to make changes because things are getting really bad and we only have 2 to 3 years to turn this around, and if nobody's doing that, then we're in trouble. So then we came back to court on Friday. We came back to court a month before, and then the judge refused to hear the case because not all of us were there, even though they had set it up all on different days. So she made us all come back, and then while we were in the courtroom and we were.
Do you mind if I return?
Yeah, no, yeah.
He was my cellmate.
Prosecutors said, yes, we drop one charge, they plead guilty to the other, and then we recommend community service. And the judge said, no, we won't have you do community service because you all would enjoy that too much. I'm sure that you all do community service on a regular basis, so that is not a punishment. So she said, you're all going to jail for the weekend.
I would say overall that it was a good experience. And I think it was a good experience for anybody who's going to hear about it because they're going to either in the news or from us in our work with Declare Emergency. I really think that actually this will support our efforts of getting Joe Biden to declare climate emergency. Because what we need is the leaders to help somebody like Judge Koch be a better leader.
Has this made a difference, do you think?
I think it has. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to maybe make a difference tomorrow or this week, but it's another straw on the camel's back, you know, and it's going to add up bit by bit more. I think this will bring more people into the movement.
bear song. Represents courage. So, and bravery. You're all courageous and brave. So thank you.
Was this a success?
Yes. It got us a step closer to getting Biden declared climate emergency. He signed the bill, and so we have just one step closer, but we need him to declare it. We need this to be the thing of the past. We need to move forward. We need to save our children's futures, because if we don't, we're fucked. So let's do this.
What comes next for your movement?
More of the same until people step up.
Yep. Keep on awakening people.
People have to see the truth.
We have to take a shower first, though.
Movement. More people, come
Yes, we
join
need
us.
more people,
Save
please.
the world.
Yes.
Save the earth.
Thank you.
I wish it was easier.
Yeah. There's a time and a place.
Now is the right time and place.
Yes, exactly.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
And I say this is the time, and you guys say this is the place, and I say this is the place.
Right.
And then we'll just keep saying this is the time, this is the place, this is the place.
Okay.
This is the time.
This is the time.
This is the place.
This is the time.
Declare climate emergency.
Declare climate emergency.
This is the time.
This is the time.
This is the place.
This is the place.
Declare climate emergency.
Declare climate emergency.
Yeah.
I have a very short song, which I'm just learning. If anybody else knows it, please join in. Have you been to jail for justice? I want to shake your hand. 'Cause sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom or marched on that picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine.
3 days after the original blockade, Michelle Weiner was invited onto Fox News, where Jesse Waters offered a hostile interview while granting a platform to the group's message.
They are not telling us the truth. We
Michelle,
have 2
all
to
right, so
3 years
you're not going to apologize.
determine the future of humanity.
That's not very gracious. As someone that wants to protect Mother Earth, I expected more grace, but apparently not. Michelle,
I'm not here to be gracious. I'm here to send a message.
Okay, I think we got the message. You're going to mess up everyone's commute.
Yeah, my name is Michelle Weiner, and I'm a supporter of Declare Emergency. I've been involved with Declare Emergency since January of this year.
And so can you talk about the event that happened in July, kind of the media that followed, and was it all worth it?
Yeah, we had a big event on July 4th of this year on the Beltway, on the inner loop of the Beltway in Maryland. We had 13 people who risked arrest by sitting on the road to demand that President Biden declare a climate emergency. Our government is doing nothing. It's not that they didn't know. They have the best intelligence in the world, right? It's not that they didn't have time. They've known arguably for 40 years or longer. So it's time for them to step up, and they're not. So we as people have the power to forced their hand in doing that through nonviolent civil disruption resistance. So we went out on the road. It disrupted about 5.2 miles of traffic. And there were people that it upsets, and I can understand that. Like, there's things that people need to do. And it's regretful that we're in a position where we have to do that. And I've said this before, but it's very much like raising the alarm. Like you're in bed at 2 in the morning, the fire alarm goes off. It's an inconvenience, but if you don't get out, your life's at risk. And that's the situation we're in right now. So our strategy, we need people to know about it, and we need our government to start acting. So when you disrupt people en masse like that, like thousands and thousands of people, I'm not sure exactly the amount, but based on the mileage, we're looking at about plus or minus 8,000 people. The media can't ignore it. Whereas if you're on a pipeline or this other work is important stuff, we're not dissing that. It's just that it can be easily ignored. They can bring in private security that mishandles and mistreats these activists, whereas when it happens in the open, where many people are being impacted, it can't be ignored, and if they mistreat people, it's going to be on the record. So getting us media attention amplifies our voice even more. So it's about, that's really what it's about. It's about amplifying, it's about pressuring the government, and it's about saying we're in an emergency.
Do you have any reflections on going on Fox News to sort of spar with Jesse Waters about this?
Yeah, that was, admittedly, that was pretty scary. But, he really was trying to push our buttons. And there's training that we take to help us as spokespeople. So I'm really thankful for that, because if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have been quite so, calm, and, there's techniques on that. It was scary. But the thing is, we got 2.7 million views. That's exactly what we wanted, so thank you, Jesse Waters. Thank you to the gentleman who blew up our media. It's really regretful that is happening, but we're in an emergency. So,
was it all worth it in the end?
If it makes yes, and especially if it can turn people's minds to see how important this is. I mean, we're just regular, ordinary people. I mean, just a huge range of experiences and ages and race. And hoping we can reach out to more people to let them see just how dangerous things are and how they really need to take action and get it done.
I recently went back to my home in California, and the state it's in a really dire condition. It's really scary. There's a beautiful mountain called Mount Shasta, and it's like world-renowned mountain. It was naked when I got there of snow for the first time in my entire life. I've never seen it without snow, and it had no snow. So things are getting a lot worse, and it's happening faster and faster and faster than the scientists predicted. And I think this is what it's going to take. People determined to stand up and put themselves on the line.